Greetings and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and everyone joining us in our virtual congregation on YouTube today. Hello, I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual worship service for today, August 9th, 2020. With music from our new music director, Rumi Wood, and our pianist, Rebecca Prisnick. The sermon today is entitled, I'm Nobody, Who Are You? On Fame and Humility in the Social Media Age. Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints to our door, and here we trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth, and for relevant religious exploration in a framework with very flexible borders. Membership in this congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in the spirit of love, the search for truth, and the pursuit of justice. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, I invite you to light your own chalice or candle at home as we recite the unison words you will see on your screen. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fire of our inner connection. And now I invite you to join me in reciting the mission and covenant of Beacon. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Church is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought and belief and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. We have a touchstone tale for all ages today. It's Aesop's famous fable about the pitfalls of praise and the value of humility, the fox and the crow.
Miss Crow, how great the morning is with your beauty. How lovely and glossy are your feathers. And those eyes, like glowing reflections of your soul. What a beautiful voice you must have, beyond all other birds in the forest. Please, may I hear just one song to prove you really are the queen of all birds? Miss Crow, in exchange for your cheese, I will give you advice. Never trust a flatterer.
Our opening words today are a poem called Famous by Naomi Shihab Nye. She writes, "The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous briefly to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is only famous to the floor. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it and not as famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets, sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do.
Please join me in singing Blessed Spirit of My Life. Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition. Then when life is done for me, let love be my legacy.
Now is the time in our service when congregants are invited to share a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of this community. I haven't received any specific joys or sorrows this week, but there are many that we share. For the people of Lebanon, especially Beirut, who have just experienced a devastating bombing in their city, we offer this stone of love and support for you. If you want to contribute to helping the people of Beirut, you can send a contribution to the International Red Cross. For everyone who is dealing with COVID-19, which is pretty much everybody in the world, including us, this is a stone of solidarity and love and support, and the hope that we can be kind to one another as we all move through this together. There's a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of confusion, loneliness, concern. This is stone for all of us to hold together. For all of those who continue to work for justice, despite the pandemic, despite the difficulties, I am so in awe of you, your courage, your perseverance. There are so many ways we can be involved with UU Justice Arizona. Just read our newsletter or go to uujaz.org. This is a stone for all of the social justice warriors, whether they are UU or not. A stone of joy for my family. As I mentioned last week, my daughter just got married in Oregon. It was a beautiful time together, especially in this time of stress and difficulty. This is for them. And for all the joys and all the sorrows that remain unspoken because they are either too tender or too personal to share, Let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. I invite you now to put your feet on the floor and put down anything you might be holding and uncross your arms and just breathe. One of my favorite things to do with you every week is just intentionally breathe, because often we don't even realize we're breathing. And yet it is a portable, spiritual and emotional first aid that we carry with us all the time. So close your eyes, put your feet on the floor, and breathe in 4 beats through your nose slowly, and 5 or 6 beats out through your mouth slowly, just intentionally and deeply, being in a place of creating spaciousness with your breath. Let's breathe. See how much spaciousness you can create inside yourself as we move into a place of deeper breathing with this meditation. Our reading today is an answer to an actual question that was on the NYU college application back in 1990. And the answer was written by a young man named Hugh Gallagher, who went on to be a journalist. And this essay became quite well known and famous. This is the question he responded to. In order for the admissions staff of our college to get to know you, the applicant, better, we ask that you answer the following question. Are there any significant experiences you have had or accomplishments you have realized that have helped to define you as a person? And he wrote, I am a dynamic figure, often seen scaling walls and crushing ice. I have been known to remodel train stations on my lunch breaks, making them more efficient in the area of heat retention. I translate ethnic slurs for Cuban refugees. I write award-winning operas. I manage time efficiently. Occasionally, I tread water for 3 days in a row. I woo women with my sensuous and godlike trombone playing. I can pilot bicycles up severe inclines with unflagging speed, and I cook 30-minute brownies in 20 minutes. I am an expert in stucco, a veteran in love, and an outlaw in Peru. Using only a hoe and a large glass of water, I once single-handedly defended a small village in the Amazon basin from a horde of ferocious army ants. I play bluegrass cello. I was scouted by the Mets. I am the subject of numerous documentaries. When I'm bored, I build large suspension bridges in my yard. I enjoy urban hang gliding. And on Wednesdays, after school, I repair electrical appliances free of charge. I am an abstract artist, a concrete analyst, and a ruthless bookie. Critics worldwide swoon over my original line of corduroy evening wear. I don't perspire. I'm a private citizen, yet I receive fan mail. I have been caller number 9 and won the weekend passes. Last summer, I toured New Jersey with a traveling centrifugal force demonstration. I bat 400. My deft floral arrangements have won me fame in international botany circles. Children trust me. I can hurl tennis rackets at small moving objects with deadly accuracy. I once read Paradise Lost, Moby Dick, and David Copperfield in a single afternoon, and still had time to refurbish my entire dining room that evening. I know the exact location of every food item in the supermarket. I performed covert operations for the CIA. I sleep once a week, and when I do sleep, I sleep in a chair. While on vacation in Canada, I successfully negotiated with a group of terrorists who had seized a small bakery. I balance, I weave, I dodge, I frolic, and all my bills are paid. On weekends, to let off steam, I participate in full contact origami. Years ago, I discovered the meaning of life, but I forgot to write it down. I have made extraordinary 4-course meals using only a moly and a toaster oven. I breed prize-winning clams. I have won bullfights in San Juan, cliff diving competitions in Sri Lanka, and spelling bees at the Kremlin. I have played Hamlet. I have performed open heart surgery, and I have spoken to Elvis. But I have not yet been to college.
Goodbye, Norma Jean, though I never knew you at all. You had the grace to hold yourself while those around you crawled. They crawled out of the woodwork and they settled into your brain. They set you on the treadmill and they made you change your name. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in. And I would have liked to know you, but I was just a kid. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did. Loneliness was tough, the toughest role you ever played. Hollywood created a superstar, and pain was the price you paid. Even when you died, all the press still hounded you. All the papers had to say was that Marilyn was found in the nude. And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind, never knowing who to cling to when the rain set in. And I would have liked to know you, but I was just a kid. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did. Your candle burned out long before your legend ever did.
My sermon today is entitled, I'm Nobody, Who Are You? A sermon about humility and fame in the social media age. Emily Dickinson, the patron saint or saintess of recluse poets, asks, I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? Then there's a pair of us, shh, don't tell. They'd banish us, you know. How dreary to be a somebody, how public, like a frog, to tell your name the livelong day to an admiring bog. Now, please don't jump to conclusions or get offended. I'm not comparing you to a bog, admiring or otherwise, in person or in this virtual YouTube realm. And I'll admit that it is a bit risky, even disconcerting, to stand here, utterly exposed, and invite a comparison of myself to a frog. In truth, I love preaching, and I don't find it particularly dreary at all to be a public figure, somebody in Dickinson's terms, because I've put in the requisite hours reflecting on the shadow side of such exposure and the shallowness of locating one's worth in notoriety or even praise. The number of views we've had, for instance, last week on our YouTube channel. Yet I have been reflecting on Dickinson's poem as we become more and more immersed in the faux universe of TikTok and, yes, YouTube. I've been pondering what it might mean in our fame-crazed, Twitter-driven, guru-entranced, Instagram influencer world to be a nobody and a somebody, extraordinary and ordinary, by society's standards, by religious standards, by our own standards, by the standards put forth by our family, our friends, our colleagues, our congregation. More so, the question of somebodyness is one we may relate to, especially as a gathered community. As demographic studies suggest, UUs in general are a community of talent, education, resources, and accomplishment. So what could we find if we were to seek our true worth beyond the pressure to promote our special somebodyness in the world by telling our names the livelong day to whoever will listen or will validate us by liking our status on Facebook? And in a religious context, what might it mean to view religious role models like the humanitarian Jesus as extraordinary and ordinary, a somebody and a nobody, much like us workaday humans? As I consider the nuances of the fame, talent, humility equation, my mind wanders back to 1999 and a small study group of 4 seminarians, close and trusted friends, private people in the thick of a journey towards a very public profession. Together, we met regularly to prepare for our appointments with the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, the MFC for short, at the Unitarian Universalist Association, and to gain their all-important stamp of approval of preliminary fellowship. So to aid us in our preparation, we had inherited a long list of provocative and useful sample questions, which we turned into flashcards and which we lobbed at each other during our meetings. What was the Restorationist controversy? Who is A. Pal Davies? What is the significance of Krakow in our history? What is your philosophy of religious education? What is the institutional definition of racism? And so on. It was a challenging and rewarding exercise, and yet there was one question that just kept making us squirm, namely, what special qualities do you possess that will make you an excellent UU minister? Ugh, special? Excellent? We giggled and sighed, cleared our throats a lot, blushed, panicked, tossed off flippant comments about adoring coffee hour, the memorization of hymns, and how stunning we'd look in black. But the truth is, the query made us squeamish for a reason. It pushed the ego self-promotion button and posed the uncomfortable, ever-present question, what makes you a somebody? It asked us to sell them on our special somebodyness, but to do it with the requisite ministerial humility. We kept practicing being humble, yet self-assured. Yikes, a peculiar type of cliff. Earlier, we heard a reading taken from an actual NYU application essay written by Hugh Gallagher in 1990, answering a similar question. Are there any significant experiences you have had or accomplishments you have realized that have helped define you as a person? And as we all heard Gallagher's witty and clever reply, it is a veritable PR blitz of somebodyness. He's an expert in stucco. He breeds prize-winning clams. He has spoken to Elvis. He has performed covert operations for the CIA and single-handedly repelled an army of ants in the Amazon. He excels at full contact origami and enjoys urban hang gliding. He doesn't perspire. Obviously, the young man is a talented writer with a terrific sense of humor and a keen eye for society. He skillfully pokes fun at the question by asking, can accomplishments ever truly define who we are or express our worth? Can experiences or notoriety, no matter how meaningful or memorable, ever capture our somebodyness accurately? Personally, I doubt it. So why do we keep asking and answering the somebody question? Probably because we have little choice. It begins in preschool with Star of the Week and continues through auditions, math Olympiads, Little League tryouts, college applications, job interviews, and appointments with approval boards like the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. A quick Google search on my laptop the other day underscored for me what a surreal society we're living in. One in which every superstar and wannabe headlines a fan club and where a hall of fame exists for every conceivable endeavor, from Alabama jazz and anagrams to freshwater fishing and shareware. There's even a psychology hall of fame, sponsored, not surprisingly, by 1-800-therapist.com. Amazing and bizarre. It seems that in our consumer-centric society, driven by an insatiable need to both idolize and vilify celebrities and pseudo-celebrities, and accumulate wealth and gain power, everybody is expected to market themselves in what New Age business consultant James Wanless calls the you-biz, in which you, the individual, are the product. And that has never been more true. In this brave you world, according to Wanless, you cultivate your distinctive gifts, your foresight, your intuition, your intentions, your values, and your relationships so that you can establish your market niche and set yourself apart from other brand yous. So, if we subscribe to this paradigm, we are a brand called Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And yes, we utilize social media, Facebook, YouTube, our website. Without it, our brand would have a hard time being visible or viable in our ever plugged in Wi-Fi world. Personally, I'm a brand called Robin Landerman Zucker, sometimes Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, and my task is to set myself apart as a somebody and establish my market niche. I could do that. I have done that. It was a must in my private practice as a community minister. I'm all for believing in myself, believing I can excel in my chosen field. But Wanless's scheme seems a little bloodless to me. For instance, one thing he neglects to mention is, like all brands, I have an expiration date. Being human and all, I'm not quite sure how to work that little wrinkle into my product slogan, though. How about sermons, freshness, dated? Consider Emily Dickinson, whose main themes were fame and death, and who, despite her insightfulness, could not have foreseen a society transfixed by blogs, tweets, fan clubs, 24-hour webcams, an unhinged rapper named Kanye West running for president as a candidate for the birthday party, YouTube, TikTok fame, and reality TV stars becoming president or becoming millionaires as Instagram influencers. Yet I think it's the very idea of being a product that caused Dickinson to lament how dreary to be a somebody. She didn't detest the idea of being appreciated for her abilities, just the unsavory enterprise of self-promotion she saw in her peers. My colleague, the Reverend Roberta Finkelstein, argues that Emily Dickinson knew exactly what she was doing. She was not this little retiring, uneducated waif in the kitchen, writing random thoughts on scraps of paper, though sometimes she did write on scraps of paper. She wrote because she needed to express herself. She could not express herself. But she seems to have done this, first and foremost, for herself and her muse. Like a person who privately loves to paint or to carve wood or to sculpt stone. It's not done primarily for public recognition, but rather because it offers a deeper connection, a way to self, life, and the ground of being. In reality, Emily Dickinson, this quirky woman of Amherst, Massachusetts, she published only 4 poems in her lifetime, 4. But she's now considered one of our finest poets. In her own time, she was a self-proclaimed and ridiculed nobody because she was a talented, ordinary person who shunned the pursuit of notoriety. Or at the very least, Emily seemed to know the difference between fame and self-worth. This is a far cry from 2020 and the 15 minutes of fame or infamy we're supposedly thirsting for, according to Andy Warhol, or that we unwittingly attract in our media-saturated lives, where every iPhone is a camera and there's nowhere to hide, for better or ill. Some social scientists are concerned, and they observe that given the zombie-esque permanence of social media images and posts, they never truly die, we can become embalmed, making it difficult to change how others perceive us as we grow or change. And notably, in the wake of a grim and isolating pandemic and global chaos, and with it, the stripping away of so much alluring glitz we believed to be valuable, the social media fame quest seems all the more faux and tone deaf. We've often been tantalized by celebrities and their high-style outings and devour every iota of information we can get about their private lives. There's huge industry that has been built up around this. I think on some level, we are relieved to find that our celebrated somebodies are a lot like us. run-of-the-mill folk who cope with clogged sinks and bad haircuts, health issues, failed marriages, bipolar spouses, parenting challenges, the need to quarantine during a pandemic and homeschool their children, flesh and blood people like us with expiration dates who face longing and disappointment are as susceptible to COVID-19 as we are and experience triumph and tragedy just like us regular nobodies. This allows us to both adore them for their talents or pizzazz and care about them at the same time. And it can also lead to schadenfreude, being pleased when they fall. Although lately, I think we've become more empathic to everyone across the board. Speaking of talents, I'm not suggesting that we should pretend we don't have any or sit around waiting to be discovered. Here's where this sermon is going to sound a little bit like a commencement address. If you're an accomplished mathematician, I would never urge you to act like you were befuddled by long division. Playing small doesn't serve the world. It actually robs the world of the blessings that exist within each of us in various shapes, shadings, and measures. And I do believe they are sacred blessings, and that even the most ardent, humanist, self-made person has to get their raw materials from somewhere. Somebody else who liked preaching a lot was Jesus. In the Gospel according to Matthew, in his famous Sermon on the Mount, he preaches these well-known words. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under a bushel basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works. Now, ironically, in the very same chapter of Matthew, in the same sermon, Jesus preaches that the meek shall inherit the earth. Uh-oh. That brings us back again to that uncomfortable MFC question about our special qualities and our distinctive specialness, and how we might possibly negotiate the tightrope between being in the you-biz and walking humbly in the world. Those who extol Jesus's exceptionalism, his role as a savior, as a one true path, believe him to be the Son of God. It's the very heart of the Christian faith. In some ways, some very crass ways at times, he has been appropriated, branded, and marketed using the wandless you-biz method. And our current president holding up a Bible like it's a prop after tear gassing peaceful protesters and kicking a priest out of her own church for a photo op comes to mind. Yet the human Jesus, the one that you tend to look to as a role model or a prophet, he was actually somewhat reluctant to make the claim of divinity or chosenness, a trait he shares with Old Testament prophets. He referred to himself often as the Son of Man, suggesting the first shall be last, and when he uttered Father, it was a reference to the God of his people, the Jews. When asked whether he is the Son of God, he replies famously, but who do you say I am? Essentially, he's leaving it up to faith and perception. In the praise game, we're highly susceptible to perceptions too. We can only perceive ourselves as somebodies in relation to externally defined measures or benchmarks. You can't be a somebody in relation to yourself because you are yourself, no matter what. The thing is, trying too hard to be a somebody with a capital S is exhausting and dreary, and actually separates us from our inherent specialness, the authentic gifts that emerge when we get out of the way. One can find greater freedom by simply residing in the flow of one's extraordinary ordinariness, where there is no better or worse, no greater or lesser, no bigger or smaller, no comparison, of any kind. As I ponder my essential worth, and this becomes truer as I get older, I find that it resides mostly in the extraordinary ordinariness of my day-to-day existence as a minister, mother, friend, colleague, journeywoman, human being. Like many of you, when I'm just plain Robin, I tend to get the most gold stars for the least flashy actions. My now adult children, Sam and Michaela, for instance, they tend to think I'm a somebody because I come through for them. I listen and care. And when they were younger, I drove them around a lot and kept the freezer stocked with Hot Pockets. Moreover, I believe that any admiration I receive does not arise from accolades I may reap in my profession, but instead from the fact that I can say, I love you and really mean it, that I'm not afraid to show my vulnerability and humanity, that I forgive and apologize, that I try to be brave, and I learn. I admit that right now, getting from day to day during this pandemic and social unrest is difficult, but just getting through the day is enough. I am enough. You are enough. We are enough. Personally, I have never heard a kid say, I love my dad because he increased the profit margin of his company by 7%, has 50,000 Twitter followers or a gazillion likes on Facebook, and you should have seen his last TikTok video. Nor have I ever seen the word successful or superstar on a tombstone. Don't most of us hope to craft a wholehearted life and earn the designation beloved as our legacies? I know I do. Ordinary things done extraordinarily well constitute religious values. Ordinary things like gentleness, forgiveness, fidelity, commitment, justice, compassion, and generosity. Your extraordinary ordinariness may not earn you a Pulitzer Prize or win you the PGA Masters. You may not be catapulted to superstardom like the winner of The Voice or enshrined as a wax figure at Madame Tussauds. Hey, you may never make an enticing 4-course meal with only a moly and a toaster oven, or be caller number 9 and win the weekend passes like Pithy U. Gallagher. Inevitably, we do strive for some measure of excellence in order to succeed in society's conventional and external arenas, including ministry. Yet, in the final analysis of our worth, beyond the alluring clickbait of hollow fame, we can embrace and celebrate our extraordinary ordinariness. Frogs, recluses, poets, cynics, TikTok dancers, somebody, enduring prophets, lights of the world, all. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
Please join me in singing How Could Anyone? How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected in my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your love is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
The spirit of generosity and gratitude flows through Beacon. Each week, whether we are here in our sanctuary or in our virtual realm on YouTube, we take an offering to support the work of Beacon and our community partners. You can make a donation at our website, beaconuu.com, using the secure Vanco application, or you can send a check to us here at our Flagstaff address. Either way, we greatly appreciate your support of Beacon, especially during this challenging time. And finally, we typically come together in a circle and we hold hands and we feel the warmth of our community. Of course, right now we are not meeting in person, and even if we were, we probably wouldn't be holding hands. But I want you to envision that. I want you to envision us in a circle, holding hands. And remember that we are Beacon, always connected. Please join me in the benediction that you see on your screen. Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings. Be well and stay safe. Blessed be, blessed we. Amen.